And welcome. It's Friday, TGIF Day, Friday, 4 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as being on Blackjack TV. We're also on most of your primary podcast platforms just as well. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Amazon Music, Podcast, Spotify, you name it, we're there for you. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Saturdays and Sundays, we're here at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So tomorrow when we come back, we'll be at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So anyway, thank you very much for listening. I am Chris Pardo, and like I said, we're coming to you live right here from Charlotte, North Carolina. And of course, that's the story there. Thank you very much for listening. Of course, as always, if you've listened to the show before, you kind of get the idea that, we're more of a contrarian type of philosophy that we employ here. By being a contrarian, basically means you're betting against the public. If the public goes one way, you go the other way. So, in one of the things we talk about is saying, let's just say you walk into a bar and they're looking at a game coming up and everyone's saying, oh, we like this team, we like this team, we like this team. They all kind of agree on the same team. That's the time you go to the other one. That's what contrarians do, and that's the philosophy that we have here on the show. So we'll go into a little bit more talking about that as well today. Of course, we got 3 games to take a look at today, kind of give you an idea as to where the line movement is going in those games, as well as in which direction the pros are looking at in this game as well. Kansas City against Detroit, Cincinnati against St. Louis, and Philadelphia against the Colorado Rockies. Those are the games that we're going to take a close-up look, see how the line movement is going. Once that's determined, we'll have an idea as to which direction the pros are going as well. And then we're also going to go into some strategies about betting on baseball, because baseball's betting a little different than it is with some of the other sports as well. So we'll go into a little more detail about that. And of course, as usual, we're going to run down things that happened yesterday, kind of give you an idea as to how the favorites, how the underdogs made out in the major games yesterday. So to begin with, over in the National Hockey League, as has been happening all season long, the favorites went 6-4 with upsets by the Capitals, the Flyers, the Red Wings, and the Senators. They all upset. That's part of that 4. The unders went 5-3-2. You had a push on the Hurricanes-Panther game, which was at 6 goals, and the Avalanche-Blues game, which was at 6 goals as well. The unders still lead, however, in the season, 350 to 331, and that's at 51.5%. Meanwhile, the first period over-unders, they split 5-5 yesterday. The first period unders still lead, however, at 52%. Over in the NBA, the favorites went 5-1 straight up and 5-1 against the spread. Favorites did very, very well yesterday as far as the NBA was concerned. The only upset was by the Celtics. They were 1.5-point underdogs against the Suns. The Pelicans, a 10-point favorite against the Bucks. And the Pelicans a 10-point favorite. The Bucks were a 6.5-point favorite. The Spurs were 7-point favorites. The Bulls were 1-point favorites, and the Mavericks were 3.5-point favorites. They all covered. The favorites improved in the NBA. They got that slim lead of 435 to 426, which is at 50.5%. Meanwhile, the over-unders, they split 3-3. The overs still lead, however, 442 to 434. That's at 50.5%. So the favorites doing very, very well in the Hockey League, doing kind of better in the NBA, but over in baseball, Major League Baseball, the underdogs, they went 5-3 yesterday. They increased their season's lead to 132 to 129 straight up. The upsets were by the Diamondbacks at a plus 130, the Pirates at a plus 105, and the Yankees finally won one at plus 100. The Mariners are also at plus 150. Padres are at plus 155. Now, the overs and unders, they split 4-4 yesterday in baseball. The unders still lead, however, at 53.8, so it's pretty close to 54% as far as the unders are concerned over the overs. So that's Major League Baseball. So in baseball, the dogs did very well. The NBA, the favorites did better. And the National Hockey League, the favorites did well as well. But with the National Hockey League, as we've been following all season long, the favorites have really been lighting up the board as far as the National Hockey League is concerned. The NBA, they've been flipping around a little bit, and because we haven't been talking too much about betting on NBA games, primarily because in talking to people, to hearing people say what's going on as far as their betting situations are going on, it's pretty hard trying to pick winners in the NBA this season, primarily because, well, first of all, there's so many different variables coming into play. You're not even sure who's going to be starting when the time comes. So those kind of situations that arise, what happens is it becomes more and more difficult for you to try to pick a winner. Yeah, you're going to pick a team, but you're not doing as well. So some parts of the week, the favorites have been doing well. Other parts of the week, the underdogs have been doing well. Meanwhile, in baseball, the underdogs have been doing very well. So it all depends on how you look at it. But the NBA, we've been kind of laying off of it and kind of recommending to people throughout the week that, unless you really want to make some sort of a bet and try to make it a token bet if you need the action, is to stay away from the NBA games. You got a little less than 2 weeks to go. Once the playoffs come, then everything kind of falls into place. You'll be able to make more definitive decisions as to what team you want to play, and you'll probably turn out much better than you have been if you've been playing so far. If by some means you're doing very well this season with the NBA, God bless you. Good luck. I'm glad you're doing it. We here at the Zone, we really want you to become a better handicapper, and because when you do, you're going to have more winners. If you have more winners, you're going to have more money at the end of the season. So that's the story as to what happened yesterday in the three major sports that we've been talking about. So we're going to take our first break, and of course, we do have 3 breaks. If you've listened to the show before, we tell you we have 3 breaks within the show. Each one is of about a 1-minute duration. So if that's the case, we will be back in 1 minute. And when we come back, we're going to take a look at the 3 baseball games that we're going to be talking about that are on tap for this evening. Look at the line movement and try to determine in which direction the pros are laying their money. So we'll be back in the zone right after this. And welcome back. Welcome back to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live right here from Charlotte, North Carolina. We're on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as on major podcast platforms such as iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. We're on most of them as well. And we're also on Blackjack TV as well. So either way, welcome to the show, whatever way you're listening, whatever time zone you happen to be in. I hope you're ready. The week has come to an end. We're getting ready with the weekend. And before you know it, the draft is going to be upon us on Thursday. So we'll be talking about that as we go into next week. But in the meantime, like we said earlier, if you've listened to the show before, we've been doing this show for, a little over 5 years right now. Kind of give you an idea on that. And we've always been contrarians. And by being a contrarian, what we do is we bet against the public. One of the tools that we use in our analytical data is the fact, let's see which way the public is going on this one, and then see if it's advantageous for us to bet against them. Now, you don't do that in every game, okay? But there are certain ones that do stick out. Now, Friday is really a great day to fade the public, okay? When we say fade, we mean going against the public. You may have heard me use this phrase, fade, many times before, but believe it or not, there is a relatively sound theory behind fading the public, especially on Friday. Because Fridays, they're often a great day to go in that contrarian area because the public, well, they kind of, the week has come to an end, the work week, they get ready for the weekend. And because of that, they have to kind of put maybe a bet or two on the games for tonight. So whether it's they're getting together with their friends to kind of sweat out a game, or you're just there hanging out at home, they're always seem to be on Fridays. They seem to put a little more money down on a nationally televised matchup. Also, the recreational bettors or the average bettor, they get paid on Fridays, which means that right now the pockets will be full at the end of the day, and they have some more kind of we call fun money to kind of use so they can spend and use it as far as betting is concerned. So in all of what I just said, what does it really mean for the bettors? It means this. It means that a typical Friday night game takes in more action than a Monday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday, or a Thursday night game. Friday takes in more money than the rest of the weekdays. Of course, weekend, we know what it's like. Now, of course, when you come to the NFL season and you're going to have a game on Thursday night, obviously, you're going to have a big night there, and the Monday night game is going to draw a lot of money as well. But for this time of the season where there's no NFL action, nothing going on, Friday takes in a lot more money than earlier in the week. The ticket counts are higher, the handles are bigger, and there's more public bias for us to bet against as contrarians. Now, more often than not, the public is going to lean on the favorites. We know that. They're going to go on the overs, which also gives us additional value to bet against the public and go for the unders as well. So the phrase fade the public on Friday, and I didn't coin that phrase. Once again, Josh Applebaum is one who came up with it. I would have given him all the credit for it. That is really the case. It's absolutely true. Friday, a lot more money comes in, so there are a lot more public bettors betting. What that does is all those biases now come into play, especially on these nationally televised games, whether it's a National Hockey League game or whether it's NBA or whatever, like Major League Baseball, if you're going in that direction. This is the type of day that really sticks out and helps us contrarians get along. So that's the story as far as that's concerned. So now let's take a look at some of the games that are on tap for tonight. Starting to get some notable action from the pros, money coming in as well. To begin with, that's 7:10 p.m. Eastern Time. You got the Kansas City Royals. They're 10-7 this season, playing the Tigers, who are 7-9. and 12. Now, these are American League Central teams. And once again, an expression we've used a lot this season, completely going in opposite directions. The Royals are 6-3 over their last 9 games, while the Tigers, they're just 1-6 over their last 7 games. So in tonight's game, which is the series opener, Kansas City starts their veteran left-hander, Mike Minor. He's 1-1 for the season. He has a 5.17 ERA. Meanwhile, the Tigers, they come back with their young top pick, Casey Mize. He's 1-1 so far this year with a 3.38 ERA. So, giving you all that information, here's how the line started out and how it looks. It opened with Kansas City, was kind of an even minus 130 road favorite. Minus 130 on the road. That's how it started. But right off the bat, this opening number says a lot of things. If Kansas City is playing so much better, they have such a better record, 10-7 against 7-12. Okay, why aren't they a heavier favorite? Why are they only a minus 130 as an opening? The public is going to bet and lay that chalk with the Royals, but yet we've seen Kansas City actually come down a little bit from minus 130 down to minus 115. This means, very simply, what we call a sharp reverse line movement on the Tigers. The Tigers went from being a plus 120 down to a plus 105. So the pros are buying low on Detroit while they're at home. Now, the Tigers, they have value because they're a divisional dog. That divisional dogs are at 48.4% this season, plus 19 units for this season, if you look at it from a money standpoint. And they're also a dog with a line move that's in their favor, which is at 47%. And if you're betting units, you're up by 9 if you did it that way. The total in this game is 8. Both of these teams have been profitable to the under this season. Kansas City is 10-6 to the under. Detroit is 12-7. Remember, divisional unders are at 54% this season so far. So if you're looking to bet this game, it's a night game, a little after 7 o'clock. The pros in this situation are on the Tigers. Primary reason is Kansas City looks so much better. Okay. Why isn't the line any better? That's one of the indicators. That's one of the red lights that you're looking for. When you see two teams playing against each other, one is obviously with a better record than the other on the upswing, the other one's on the downswing. Okay. And then all of a sudden you look at the line and you say, wow, that's kind of low. There's something wrong there. So always think of it in that perspective as well. So as far as the pros are concerned, in this particular game, they love the Detroit Tigers. We have 2 more games to take a look at. You have the Reds against the Cardinals and the Phillies against the Colorado Rockies. We'll take a close look at those 2 games, check on their money line movement as well, and also kind of give you an idea in which direction the pros are going on those 2 games as well. But let's take our break, and when we come back, that's the first thing we're going to do. And then after that, we're going to be talking about some betting strategies, different strategies that you can use in betting on baseball. Okay, so let's take that break. We'll be back into the sports wagering zone right after this. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. We're coming to you live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, Blackjack TV, on most of your major podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify. We're not going to go into all of them, but we're on most of them as well. So thank you very much for listening. We totally appreciate your patronage. And as more and more states come in to the legalized betting room, things are going to get bigger and bigger. We're going to have more new bettors coming into play. And what that means is, as a contrarian, we couldn't have happier news than that. Because understand something. The sports books, they know this. They know for decades of doing business that the general public goes and has a certain philosophy. Now, not everybody, but the majority of them, especially when they're brand new when they come in, they start thinking, well, why should I bet on an underdog? Let me bet on the favorite. Everybody else seems to like this team, so they must be better. Okay. Or they use their biases. They're a certain type of a fan that might be a Giants fan or a Raiders fan, and they'll stick by them come hell or high water. That's the way they kind of look at it from that perspective. So we know that's coming. For us contrarians, it's like music to our ears, in other words, So to begin with, let's go back over the one game we talked about earlier. On tap for tonight, the Kansas City Royals against the Detroit Tigers. The pros in that game are going with the Tigers. Meanwhile, at little after 8 o'clock, and that's Eastern time, of course, Cincinnati Reds, they're 9-9. They're right at 500. Playing against the St. Louis Cardinals, are 8-10. Now, both of these National League Central teams, they've kind of been having some struggles lately. The Reds, they've lost 4 straight. They just got swept at home by the Diamondbacks, by the Snakes from Arizona. Meanwhile, the Cardinals, they lost 3 of the last 4, and they just lost 2 straight against the Nationals. Now, for tonight's opener, the Reds come out with their ace, Sonny Gray. Has no record so far, 4.15 ERA. The Cardinals, on the other hand, they're coming with their lefty, Kwang Hyun Kim. He's no record so far with a humongous 9.0 ERA. Now, as we look at the line, open with Cincinnati, listed as a short, small, minus 120 road favorite, and the Cardinals a plus 110 home dog. Now, the pro money has really come down on the Cardinals. They want the plus money at home. Drop the Cardinals from being a plus 110 down to a minus 102. So they flipped the game totally. The money that they came in on was on the Cardinals. It started out as being a plus 110, dropped down to now a minus 102. So essentially, the pro money is on the Cardinals. And like I said, it kind of turned it into a pick'em game when you get that low, okay? St. Louis's value, because they're a divisional dog, and they're a dog with a line move in their favor. The pros also seem to be leaning that this game would be a higher scoring game than normal. The total is a low 7.5, but the over, they've juiced it up to minus 115, and I've even seen it at minus 120. So depending on which sports book you're dealing with, it could be a different number. The Reds have been one of the best over teams in baseball this season. They're 13-5 to the over. In other words, if you were betting the overs, the over-unders, and you took Cincinnati for the whole season, for whatever reason you decided to play them, okay, you'd be up ahead 13-5. Now, the over is 9-8-1 as far as the Cardinals are concerned. So both teams are pretty good to the over. So as far as the pros are concerned, they like the Cardinals, even though you're going to have to lay a little bit now, Okay, it's going to be minus 102. That's kind of like what we would call a pick 'em, really, when you get that low. Okay, you're only risking $2 against 100, so it's not like you're risking a lot of money. Okay, now the total again on the high side, so going over and the Cardinals in that game. Meanwhile, around a little after 8 o'clock, you have the Philadelphia Phillies and the Colorado Rockies coming down to Denver. The Phillies are 9-9; they're at 500 this season. The Rockies, well, they're a little worse, 6-12 so far. Now, this is a National League non-divisional game. It's the first of 3 games that are going to be played in Colorado. The Phillies just dropped 2 of 3 when they were at home to the Giants, while the Rockies, they just swept a short 2-game series at home against the Astros. Now, in tonight's game, the Phillies come in with Vince Velasquez. He has no record so far, but a drastic 9.0 ERA. Meanwhile, the Rockies, they come back with German Marquez. He's 1-1 this season with a 3.57 ERA. Now, as we look at the line, we see that it opened. Colorado was listed as a minus 130 home favorite, and the Phillies a plus 120 on the road as a dog. The pros have gone in and grabbed the opportunity to get Philadelphia and getting that plus money against the team with the worst record in the National League. The Rockies at 6-12 have the worst record in the National League. So the pros are on Philadelphia. Now, in the process, the Phillies have fallen from being a plus 120 to being a plus 105. So Philadelphia matches several of the profitable betting systems this season. Number one, they're a dog off of a win, okay? A dog with a line move in their favor, and they're a road dog as well. Also, they're what we call a sweet spot dog. They're plus 140 or less, okay? They're at over 50% winners so far this season. Now, the Phillies are also a dog with a high total. The total is 10.5. Now, historically, high totals have benefited the underdogs as more expected runs will be scored. That leads to a little more variation and upset opportunities. The more runs that can get scored, there's a greater possibility that there's going to be an upset in the situation. Phillies being the dog, they would be in that upset possibility. So in this particular game, once again, the pros in this game are on the Philadelphia Phillies. So just to recap once again, the 3 games we talked about. As for tonight, Kansas City against Detroit, the pros are on the Tigers. Cincinnati Reds against the Cardinals, the pros are on the Cardinals. And of course, the Phillies against the Rockies, the pros are on the Philadelphia Phillies. And if you notice, in all 3 games, they are on the dog in all 3 games. Now, even though you got to lay minus 102 in the Cardinals game, but they started out being a dog with a dog number, but all that money coming in on the Cardinals from the pros lowered that number down to making the Cardinals now a slight favorite. Again, it's really almost like a pick-up if you look at it from that perspective. So that's the story as far as those 3 games are concerned. And it's not unusual. If you've been listening to the show through the years, you'll understand the pros generally, in most instances, will be contrarians. They will generally bet against the public. Now, doesn't mean they won't bet on a favorite every now and then, because, hey, every now and then a favorite does look good. There's value in betting on the favorite. So in those situations, they do that as well. But I would say over the long haul, if you look at all their bets at the end of a year, you'll see that most of the bets are going to be on the underdogs as well. So that's the story there. We're going to take our break. When we come back, we're going to go over some betting strategies as far as baseball is concerned, because betting on baseball is a little different than betting on some of the other sports like basketball or football. So we'll be back into the zone right after this most important message. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina, coming to you live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network and most of your major platforms or podcasting as well. So we talked about the three games coming up for tonight. We'll go over them once again real quickly before we go off the air in case you missed it. And also, we're going to be talking about some betting strategies as far as baseball is concerned. Now, we've talked about this before, and every now and then we kind of bring up some things we've may have mentioned before, but we always have new listeners coming on board. And not only that, but it's also a reminder to you because sometimes when you hear something, you say, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And then you kind of fade away from it a little bit and you forget about it. And now all of a sudden you hear it again. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be doing that. So that's why we always bring these different tips and ideas and strategies back to help you to become a much better handicapper as well. So, because, as far as all the sports are concerned, baseball has had a really interesting off season. They came off that condensed 2020 regular season. Remember, it was shortened. In fact, it's amazing that the NFL they're really being the only sport to do its regular season entirely unscathed, even though you did have a couple of postponed games, but every team did get to play their 16 games. Now, baseball has a lot of player movement and we're supposed to go back to a 162 game schedule with a deadened ball. That's what they say. So this kind of leads me to my little first bit of advice. A lot of people are saying to bet unders early in the season. But if I see the odds makers shading the totals low, I'm going to jump all over the overs, which means if I think they're a little too low on that, I'm going to go for the over because there's a good possibility it's going to be over. So, for starters, I'm kind of skeptical that baseball will actually do anything to limit the scoring. That's just not something anybody does. You don't see the NFL doing that. All of the rules and regulations that have been changing in the NFL over the past few years have all been to help the offense. And when you help the offense, that means they want more points scored because the general public loves to see a lot of touchdowns. They love to see a lot of home runs, things of that nature. They want action. They don't want to see a no hitter. They don't want to see a close 7-6 football game, okay, or a 3-0 football game. So, really, I'm not buying this idea that the ball is going to be slowed down, okay? And especially with today's players where they hit and they swing for the fences, I doubt if we're going to see any drop in the scoring at all. So if you want to think about it, join with me to go on the overs and before the odds makers and the rest of the public kind of realize it. Okay, the whole idea of being successful is to do something ahead of everybody else. Okay, because you understand, even the sports books, as smart and as bright as they've been around for all these years, they every now and then they do kind of flub up a little bit. You can't watch everything. There's always something that kind of slips through the cracks. So let's take a look and see as far as tips are concerned. Those are the ideas that we have for you because baseball is a totally different sport, a different way to bet as opposed to football, as opposed to basketball. Those are what we call regular bets, definite bets on numbers. In other words, you're going to be given a plus or minus as far as a team is favored by a 5, a 6, whatever it is. The team is an underdog to a certain number. That's the case generally, and that's how it is in the NFL when you're betting football or when you're betting basketball. When you're betting baseball, baseball is primarily a money line sport. You go by the money line. You hear we talk about it all the time. When we were talking about the games today, we talked about the money line. And there's also other things that you can take a look at and bet as well. One of the other objects you can do is you can then bet on a team to win, but they have to win by more than 1.5 runs. That's already built into the system. So if you're looking at the Cardinals game for today, and you want to bet the Cardinals to win the game, okay, that's fine. You can do that, but it has to win by at least 2 runs. The cutoff is a 1.5. You're laying a 1.5 in that situation. So if you think that they're going to win by 2 runs or more, it might be better for you to bet it that way than on the money line. But most of the betting, as far as baseball is concerned, is money line betting. You can also bet on the first 5 innings, which is very comparable, very similar to what they do when they're betting on NFL games. You can bet on the first half. The team is going to score more points than another team in the first half or in the second half. You come back. Same thing with baseball. If you think that you've got a great pitcher going, that he's going to hold out okay, and he'll probably do very, very well over 5 innings, but that particular team has a terrible bullpen, you may want to go just for the first 5 innings, or may go the other way. You may want to go for the last 5 innings, the last 4 innings actually is what's left, because of course you look at it and you say, wow, this pitcher is terrible, but they got one heck of a bullpen. So you go in the other direction. So those are the kind of things we try to bring to your attention, just in case you're not betting baseball right now and you're kind of thinking about it, because there's not much of anything else going on. Maybe you've never bet hockey, you don't care about hockey. We kind of paying attention to what we're saying about the NBA. It's being more and more difficult to pick a winner in the NBA, primarily because we don't know who's going to be starting. Sometimes it changes. So you just get up in the morning, you're going to play a game, and you like this team because of a particular player. So you lay your money down, and then, about 5:30, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, you hear, wow, that guy's not going to play. He got a COVID test that came back positive. Okay. Not going to play. Alters the whole situation. So that's what's been going on as far as basketball is concerned. Not only that, but they're playing in arenas with very few people, very little noise, not much going on. Totally different psychological perspective as far as basketball is concerned. So we'll kind of give you some tips and ideas in that direction. Once again, our primary purpose right here on the show is to make a better handicapper out of you. That's what we're trying to do. So taking a look at the 3 games for tonight, if you're interested in betting on baseball, the pros like the Detroit Tigers in the first game against Kansas City. Cincinnati against the St. Louis Cardinals. The pros are on the Cardinals. And in the game between the Phillies and the Rockies, the pros in that particular game are on the Philadelphia Phillies. So that's kind of like the story there. And of course, just to go on and thank you very much for listening. You've been listening to the Sports Wagering Zone. We've been coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Saturdays and Sundays, 11 a.m. So tomorrow, we're on at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So have a very pleasant Friday. Go out and have some fun. If it was payday for you today, enjoy yourself. Go out, have a decent meal if you can, wherever you're living, if you're allowed to do something like that because of the restrictions that are out there. Otherwise, enjoy the Friday however way you can. If you're going to bet, I hope you do well. We want you to become winners. That's what we want to do. We want to create winners through the help that we give you on this show. So if you're going to bet, good luck. I hope you do well. Otherwise, have a very pleasant Friday. It's the end of the week. We'll be back again tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. So thank you for listening. We'll be back and be talking to you again tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Until then, have a pleasant Friday, and more so than that, have a profitable Friday as well. Goodbye, everybody.